All right, let's go to TVNZ, eh? Because this was their lead story at 6 o'clock. And I think that it does a really good job of commemorating the week and the day today, which was a coronation and a burial. So let's just go have a look together as to what one you said about it tonight.
Great sorrow, but also celebration, as Queenie Ngā Wai hono was crowned the new Māori monarch. Her first task, perhaps one of the hardest, accompanying her father on his final journey, taken down the Waikato River with a fleet of 4 waka to Taupiri Maunga for burial. Thousands lining the streets and on the riverbanks to witness the traditional ceremonies. Right now at the marae, they're packing down after the week-long tangihanga, many hands making light work. We have extensive coverage for you tonight with our One News team in Waikato. Yeah. In a moment, we hear what it meant to mourners who travelled from far and wide to be here, and the role of the new Queenie. But first, Māori Affairs reporter Te Aniwahura Hanganui on a moving day.
After days of mourning, the gruelling last steps. Tainui's sacred maunga stood waiting. Kīngi Tūheitia's beloved rugby league clubs are the pallbearers bearing the weight of grief, carrying a king who carried the kingitanga. But his final journey began back at Turangawaewae.
Hey Queenie! Hey Queenie!
As the new monarch was revealed.
Ko te ariki nui, Queenie, Ngā Wai hono I te pō.
The king's daughter and youngest child.
The Queenie, the youngest monarch, being anointed to service.
But it's the king's service that's brought many here today. Outside they waited in their thousands. A guard of honour from the Defence Force and final farewell from the king's descendants. While the waka were getting ready on the water, the people reflected on their grief.
How can you say, e tangi ana te wairua? My spirit cries. How can you say, e ti hai ana te tarauna? The very heart of my heart is being ripped. That wairua, that spirit, has permeated these last 7 days.
As the hearse made the slow procession towards the water's edge, his mourners were standing ready.
We are waiting for the waka to come down the awa and go up to Taupiri and be a part of today with everybody.
To see part of history pass beneath them.
Oh, it's sad. It's all I can. But it's, in a way, it's brought us together even stronger, I think.
The king guided by a 4 waka fleet, Tātahiora carrying him along the river, the new queen with him. The waters of the Waikato gently delivering him to the base of his maunga, Taupiri Maunga, step by slow step, carried to the mountaintop to be with his mother, his father, and the very first Māori king. Kīngi Tūheitia, Pōtatau te Wherowhero te tuawhitu, now resting with his tupuna, e te Kīngi, moi maira.
We'll bring in Tianua now. All week, Tianua, people have been talking about Kīngi Tūheitia's message of unity. Was that on display today?
Well, that's right, Melissa. Kīngi Tūheitia's enduring hope was for kotahitanga. He wanted the Māori people and the nation as a whole to set aside their differences and come together, and that was absolutely on display today everywhere you looked. I spent most of the day on the bridge overlooking the Waikato River, and it was just incredible seeing the number of people who came out to farewell the king. The riverbanks on both sides were full. I met families who left Ōtaki at 3 a.m. to be here, kaumātua who spent hours on buses. I even saw people travel here by horseback. Organisers have told me that there were 20,000 people in and around the marae alone. That's not including the crowds further up the Waikato River or around Taupiri Maunga, and that is a testament to the mana of a king who loved his people, who served his people, and whose legacy will live on.
A remarkable crowd to be in. Thank you very much, Te Anawā, kia ora.
So that's actually just part of the TVNZ story. It went on to other parts and bits and bits, and they showed people coming on trains and that sort of thing as well. But one thing, I nearly interrupted. I had to hold myself back, but was when the gentleman on top of the bridge said and I jotted it down, this has brought us together even stronger. You know how we've joked this year about how, Winston Peters and David Seymour, part of the irony as to what's gone on this year is they have been the reason that Māori have been brought together. I just wonder if this now is another layer on top of that. And I wonder if the passing of Kīngi is going to solidify Māori even more. And so that when, these white supremacy, ideologies and policies come out of people like Seymour's mouth, that this is an instance, and I'm not saying that they wouldn't have been, united anyway, but this just might be one more layer on top. It seems like that's what they're all saying, and they're all talking about, the message of unity that they've been put from the recently deceased king. I'm the wrong person to talk to about the, what Māori do and feel sort of thing. But I just wonder if this is going to be another layer to unify a Māori population that is already becoming pretty unified thanks to some of the stuff this government's doing, Chewy.
Yeah, like I have a lot of thoughts wrapped up in this. After some initial misgivings about how media were covering this, or whether they were slow to realize what a big thing this was, they've certainly brought it home in the last couple of days. We've spoken about it on the show at length this year, that it almost seems like, well, it's not seems like, it is, Māori being Māori and holding Māori things important has been under attack this entire year. And I can see that as a Paki at the bottom of the South Island, I can't imagine what it is like for someone where it is more close to home.
Yeah.
So to see this transition happen, this show of something that is uniquely Māori, felt refreshing.
Yeah.
And I think, as I alluded to earlier in the show, to see that we now have a young woman as a Māori queen just feels right. And it feels exactly what we've been acknowledging all of this year, that there is a generation coming through now that is going to have a huge impact and is going to blow out of the water the opinions of old, dusty white supremacists such as Michael Laws, who's decided today of all days to release a video saying, "I'm sick and tired of Māori being paraded as some sort of special people." That is a truly worthless opinion from someone that I would consider less than worthless, but deciding to hit publish on that today. An utter lack of class.
Just a little side note, and not to put any kind of lifelong responsibility onto young shoulders, but you've got a 26-year-old queen. I'm also thinking about Hana Rafiti Maipi, being young woman in Te Pāti Māori and being a leader amongst that. There, I wonder, now you've got these two Māori women in their 20s who are, I don't know, ready to spend the next 30, 40, 50 years leading their people and stuff. And I thought, Chewy, I wasn't going to play any more. But actually, when you talked about that, this might have more meaning to, there is a second part of this conversation. It just goes for 3 minutes. And I'm sorry, I haven't queued this up, but I did watch it live. I'm pretty sure on this one, they speak to some Māori women about what this means. So I'm just going to hit play, and it's only 3 minutes. We won't go to the commentary afterwards, and we'll just continue on this conversation.
New leader of the Kīngi movement, Te Queenie Ngā Wai hono i te pō is the 8th Māori monarch and is just 27 years old. She has a passion for kapahaka and already has experience representing her people. Political editor Mikey Sherman has more.
The most stirring of welcomes, ending what was great anticipation. At exactly 10 this morning, the 8th Māori monarch emerged to a thunderous reception. At 27 years old, she's a particularly young monarch.
Queenie, Ngā Wai hono i te pō.
I'm just so proud to be a witness to this.
It's a day of celebration and sadness as the new queen sat next to her father's coffin.
Hey Queenie! Hey Queenie!
Te whakawahinga, the raising up ceremony, begins with the same Bible used for the first king in 1858.
What we've just witnessed was an incredible moment.
Then sacred oils, and Ngā Wai hono i te pō is officially anointed.
Queen. Ngā Wai hono i te pō.
Absorbing the moment, she sat where her grandmother once did as queen, now only the second woman to lead the Kīngitanga movement.
I've always looked at her and thought she was made for this. Koia te koia. Ngā tāhua.
An outpouring of love.
You need a hug? Where's the car? You need a hug?
Thousands upon thousands.
If you didn't hear that clearly enough, the young boy beside him, probably son, do you need a hug? And she said yes. Lovely.
Gathered to get a glimpse of Te Queenie, Defence Force personnel in prime position with plenty of phones at the ready. Te Makau Ariki accompanying her husband on his final journey as their daughter followed behind, signalling hers would be a reign for the generations.
She was one of our main tutors for kapahaka ex-parekiro rākau manga, so she had quite a strong connection with our hunga taiōhi.
I'm just so inspired by her grace and the dignity with which she holds herself with, and I'm keen to be led by her.
Ngā Wai hono i te pō was head girl at Te Wharekura o Rākau Manga in Huntly. With a Masters of Arts from Waikato University, she's passionate about kapahaka, in recent years serving in governance roles representing the Kīngitanga.
It's certainly a big job, isn't it? Yep, sure is. And I think she's going to do really awesome. Oh, I think there's a new uprising for Māori.
An uprising with a new Queenie to lead the way.
There you go. That's the end of that story. Anything else you want to add to it, Chewy? I mean, that's basically, you said, for people who has more of a connection to it, there they are.
Mm-hmm. I don't want to focus too much on this because I've already mentioned Michael Laws and that sort of thing. I noticed the Herald also shut down their comments on the story because, of course, they did. Once again, the Herald's social media team shows more class, empathy, and conscience than the people that leave comments in the Herald stories.
Yeah, but I mean, hang on, just to be clear, the Herald has fostered that audience that would lead those comments that they now need to block. So let's not give them a congratulatory backslap without going, you are the festering comments. You have laid the manure for that to grow in New Zealand. Herald News Talks, Michael Laws, Plunkett, all you people have happily and readily laid manure on the people so they could grow into the festering sores we have in front of us today.
This is very focused praise for purely the social media team of the New Zealand Herald. Nobody else. I see a lot of people online sort of commenting that they're learning about this, learning about why it's so important. It's on their radar now, and this is because the media did pick up the pace and explained a lot of this to people. You know, I'm not professing to be an expert in the Kingitanga movement or anything like that. Like a lot of people, I've been learning about it this week. And that, I think, is the cure to a lot of this ugliness that we're talking about. Is it's ignorance. You know, we've spoken about whether it's willful ignorance or just unconscious ignorance, but it's education and learning about stuff and learning about something that is uniquely of this place. That's what makes it special.
Yeah.
And I don't have a connection to Māori culture any further than the fact that I was born and raised in this country. But I looked at that footage and I was like, yes, this is important. This is wonderful. And those emotions of like the image of her sitting there for the ceremony next to the casket that her father is in. And I'm just like, the maelstrom of feelings that must just be going through someone at that point is indescribable. Like it's a wow moment, and the weight of history that must be on your shoulders at that moment is phenomenal.
Yeah. It just reminds me as well, Chewy, and I do, kind of in a cheeky way, I do feel like you and I, on some level, have sort of been adopted by some Māori around us to be involved with what they do, like their wee South Island gingers, and it's lovely. You know, it's lovely to be asked.
Before you finish,
sure.
I just want to shout out that when I was up in Wellington, I went to a protest outside the local government conference up there, and a friend of mine and a friend of BHN was there with me, and I was referred to as her assigned Pākehā. And that's kind of what I feel like when I think about all our Māori listeners that are very generous, pointing out where we've got it right, where we've got it wrong, and just being very tolerant with us and that sort of thing. I feel, chat, that we are your assigned Pākehā. So I thank you for that.
Yeah, and it's I mean, on some level, like I was talking, not to get too philosophical about this whole thing, but on some level, what Chewy and I do is really unimportant. Like I was talking to someone the other day that works in a supermarket, and he was a little bit down about life and like about what they do. And I said, you know, when the zombie apocalypse happens, what I do, what me and Chewy do, is not needed. When the zombie apocalypse happens, no one needs to know my thoughts and feelings on the latest policy of the government. But someone needs to be fed. So, you know, I get that what we're doing on some level sort of means nothing. But then on another level, it creates community and we build and stuff around us. And the idea of getting to learn and know and be involved with and be welcomed into, and also to be able to represent from our perspective more of the Māori world. Now that sounds weird, but I'm saying from our perspective, meaning we get to open doors for the experts to come and talk, or we get to share our perspective of morons trying to just get on with life. I have a friend who used to work in kind of the world of parenting advice, and he used to always say, I'm just a beggar trying to show other beggars where to find bread. And I feel like that a lot. And I think about that a lot, because there's nothing that I'm Chewy, I don't mean to talk you down, but I feel like there's nothing that we do that's special. There's nothing about us that's special. We're just beggars trying to help other beggars find bread. And when we're talking about Māori issues, Māori in our lives and who are part of us and who have welcomed us in, they're actually the bakers of the bread. You know, they're the ones who, they know the bread, they know the recipe. And we're just beggars trying to show other beggars where to find bread. And it just, I haven't thought more than, I've said this a couple of times on the show, but I feel like if you don't accept as a New Zealander that the Māori story is a part of your story, then you're not a New Zealander. Like, I feel quite closely to me. I always joke, look, I'm Celtic. You know, I'm so white, I'm pale blue. You know, but yeah, and you're even whiter. But I feel quite close to the Māori story because I feel quite close to New Zealand. And the Māori story is an integral part of the New Zealand story. So if you're of this country, then it feels like, and I probably am the wrong person to say this because I'm not Māori to be able to offer this story to all of you. So I'll just tell you how I feel. I feel like the Māori story is a part of my story, even though I'm pale blue, because I'm of New Zealand and the Māori story is of New Zealand. And I feel like the people who say things like Māori aren't special and put up a post about it, they're revolting scum turds to scrape off the bottom of your shoe, but actually, maybe more importantly, is they're missing it. You're missing it. You're missing what it means to be a New Zealander, because there is only one thing really that's unique about this country, and that's the Māori culture. Really, that's the only thing. I mean, yeah, Australia, they play rugby. South Africa, they have, Christmas on the beach. You know, there's all these things that we look to be in New Zealand. The one that's really unique is this Māori culture. So if you're not a part of that, or if you don't want to have that as a part of your story, then you're not a good New Zealander and you're missing out on possibly the best part of New Zealand. And so I actually found watching that quite emotional. And even though it's not, but, I could feel it. I could feel the weight of it, even though I'm like, there's nothing in my blood that would connect me to that, but there is something in my story that would connect me to that. And so I feel it. I feel it on some level. Sorry, Chewy.
That was wonderful, Pat. I think this is why I fight so hard against these things that sort of downplay Māori as not being important or too difficult, or there are more important things to concentrate on and that sort of thing. People getting angry about signs, people getting angry about news presenters with moko, people getting angry about te tiriti or the treaty or that sort of thing, is that it is important because this is the only place that it is.
Yeah.
If Michael Laws is unhappy with Māori being special in New Zealand society because of the specialness of them being the first people here, because of the specialness of there being a written document between colonial powers and Indigenous people, which, let's be fair, in the colonized world is unusual. It is, by its definition, special. Then Michael Laws is very much free to go to any one of the hundreds of countries where Māori aren't. He can go back to England. He'd be one of God's chosen people. I don't care. Michael Laws doesn't matter because he is of the past.
Yeah.
And I think that's what scares these people, is that they realize that they are of the past and they completely lack the power and the character to do anything about it. All they can do is spit bile. And I don't stand with them. I won't stand with them. I know who I'll stand with.
Yeah.